Welcome to the Be My Guest podcast, where we interview inspiring entrepreneurs who share their stories and their insights and much, much more. You made a great choice tuning in today to the Be My Guest podcast. Welcome and enjoy the show. What's going on, guys? We are here with another episode of Be My Guest podcast with another great guest. Oh, man, we are stacking up the different entrepreneurs who have great insights, great stories. You guys are giving us feedback. We love it. If you want to be interviewed on the Be My Guest podcast right here, you can go to our website, BeMyGuestPodcast.com, BeMyGuestPodcast.com. Click on Get Interviewed and schedule your interview with us today. And if we pick you, we'll have you on here interviewing you, asking you questions, and letting you share your story, just like we're going to do today. All right. For today, we're going to have another great guest. And I love this subject because it's a subject I'm personally interested in, as well as done a little bit of dabbling in. And so I'm really, really excited about having our next guest on here. So without further ado, I want to bring on George here. He is the CEO of Greystone Investment Group. I'm telling you what, we've gone back a little bit. We know each other for a little while. We're in the greater Tampa Bay, Florida area. Hey, man, thanks for coming on and being a part of this.
Hey, Frankie, I'm very excited. Thank you, man. I follow you, everything you do. I think I love everything you do. One of my favorite podcasters. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And I love, I've been a part of kind of seeing some of the growth of your business as well as you continue to go to the next level. And so it's excited to see where you've come from and how you've grown your business as well. I'm excited to have you today, man. And I know you're part of a great company that you've started and built, and you're in the real estate investing sector of the world. And so many people love this topic, and so many people are trying to find ways to learn more about it and also even get participate in it. So today, if you can, why don't you introduce yourself, what you do, your company, and maybe a little bit about how you got started.
Thank you, Frankie. And one of the things that makes it exciting when I'm speaking is that you can tell I have an accent. I'm new to this country as of 3 decades ago. I came without no money, so I just look like the average Joe. So when I tell people my story, how I went from zero to $10 million worth of properties, owning 4 different companies, I think that people start believing maybe I could do it myself. So hopefully I could inspire some people that are saying I cannot do it to I can do it. That's the goal.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But yes, Frankie, I started as a financial advisor for many years. I was the number one in Tampa for 5 years in a row at a specific company. And a lot of the clients that I had under wealth management said to me, we like the mutual funds. We like the annuities you're presenting to us. But sneaky, we know you're doing some real estate on the side. So they saw me doing some real estate on the side, started asking me, how do I do real estate as well? And one thing led to the other. People were buying more properties from me than securities. And guess what? The MySpace came up. And back in the days, you were able to kind of hide a little bit that you're doing securities and real estate and all of those things because the broker dealers wouldn't like it. But the minute the social media came around, starting with my MySpace, my broker dealer came to me, Frankie, and said, you have to pick a line. You have to pick a lane. Are you going to do stocks or are you going to do real estate? And it was a very tough time for me. But I let go of my securities license and I dedicated myself 100% to doing the real estate. Give me a second, Frankie.
Yeah, no problem.
In the middle of an interview.
Yeah, so it sounds like that was probably a good decision you made so far.
Yeah, and then so what happened is we started like that, and then eventually, little by little, people were seeing me growing. Started, and by the way, I made a lot of mistakes. In 2007, I lost everything once, and I had 23 properties then. And I had to restart again. So that's how I started, kind of, and then eventually, all of the people that I had on the wealth management came to me, and I was doing real estate, and now it's been 2 decades, and I've helped a lot of people retire. There's nothing
Mm,
more passionate, more nice, sir, than to hear somebody say, "You, I retired because of you. Thank you."
wow.
So that's what I've been doing now. Nowadays, I own 4 companies: a real estate brokerage, a property management company, an acquisitions and dispositions company, and a lending company. And I'm
Nice.
here to help you invest with the rest. Grayson Investment Group. And also we have an educational academy online that helps brand new investors get started.
Wow. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on all that, man. I mean, I didn't. So it sounds like you started before the first crash, I guess you'd call it, or in our lifetime, anyways. And you had 23 properties. You lost those. You had to start again, and now you have more than, I guess, a collection of $10 million of revenue coming in from the properties you have now, man. What a jump and a leap, and congratulations to that. Let me ask you this: what was some of the hardest things you had to face when you had to restart from zero again, that you ever overcame that you could talk about today?
Yeah, there's so many things that I could think of. So many things, starting with having their own ideas, my own perceptions of how things needed to go versus how things really needed to go once I
Yeah.
gain experience, right? Uh, just to give you an example, Section 8. I started in my early days super strong with Section 8 because the whole point of investing, right, is all about what's the minimum capital that I could bring to yield the maximum cash flow. So my first attempt to do that was Section 8. All over Section 8, short term, the plan seemed solid, but long term, there was a lot of holes in the process. So that's just one example of what the perception online, guarantee payments, Section 8, the subsidiary is going to be good versus reality check versus what you can do in practical purposes. So getting to know the reality of it. And a lot of times you got to get your hands dirty. You got to go through all the mistakes. That's why when people ask me, why can you help me? And I tell them, hey, because I made every mistake you can think of.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
had murders in some of my properties. I have to clean blood from a murder. I've had houses completely burned down.
Mm,
So understanding, getting to know the different branches of real estate investing and deciding which one fits with me the best. Okay.
yeah.
So just to give you an example, if I'm a people's person, I might go out there and find investors. If I don't like to socialize with people, then maybe I'll drive for dollars, and so forth and so forth. If I don't like dealing with tenants because the tenants require a lot of specific psychology, and I don't have the time to put into it, then I don't go that route. So when an agent comes, I'm going to tell you the same thing that I tell agents when they come to me. Do you want to make money yesterday, or do you need to not want to? Do you need to make money yesterday because you're in that position that you don't have savings or enough reserves to be able to create a robust business plan long term, or you have enough money to go ahead and set up what is going to be your specific niche? And I've
Yeah.
had agents that start with rentals, start with PM, because that's quick money. But I also have agents that don't do one single transaction, Frankie, for a year, but they're focused the whole year in educating. Am I going to do commercial leases? Am I going to be a fleet expert? Am I going to be a short-term rental expert? What am I going to be? Studying it for months, teaming up with investors and people that are doing it, and then determine, okay, this is what I like doing. This is going to be my niche. This is how I'm going to differentiate myself from everybody else, because I'm going to improve this niche because I have the time to put all the energy into one.
Yeah.
So to me, it's about that, picking up a lane, because people think real estate. There's like 1,000 branches of real estate. There's so pick a lane, figure out if you like it, figure out if it matches you, and then go for it.
Yeah. Good stuff there. And let me ask you this question. For those of you who may be watching that, maybe they're thinking about getting into real estate investing. They are sold on the idea that it can work. They just need to know where to start. What would you tell them to do?
Real estate is all about what you bring, right? Think of this as the real estate table, and it's about what you bring to that table. Ideally, money, right? So
Yeah.
let's start with the low hanging fruit. Boom, you got a couple of $1 million. Everything else adjusts to you. It's easy to do, right? You have the property, so that's option 2. You have a way of coming up with properties. Do you work in a law firm that does foreclosures? Do you work for the city, and you can look at code violations and people that are losing properties to code violations? So what is your situation? Where are you working now, and what type of style you need to do when it comes to real estate? And then you make a decision. But the question is, how do you repeat that question, Frankie?
Yeah,
Again?
if you're sold on the idea that real estate investing works, you just need to know where to start.
Okay.
And let's say someone doesn't have money.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't have a ton of connections, but they're just willing to work really hard. They just need to know where to start.
Okay. So yeah, going back to the analogy of the table. So you either bring money, property, knowledge, or hard work, So one of those 2, one of those 4 that you have to bring. So you don't have a property, you don't have the money. Okay, what's next? Can you drive around for dollars, drive around and just look at neighborhoods, look at distressed properties and find properties? If not, then you're a connector. You connect people. If not, what is it that you're going to bring to the table? So, but if you have 0, you don't have any of those, you're starting from scratch, then you go to somebody that's already bringing the cash, already bringing the properties, or being the connector like our company is. And as that person, how can I help? What can I do in that process to help me eventually be part of the one transaction, even if it's 5%, 10%. So if you don't have anything, then you're tagging along with people that have one of the aboves that I mentioned. That makes sense?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So if you're coming into it and all you really have is you're willing to work hard, you really have to find somebody that's kind of in the middle of it and team up with them and try to bring value to them. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So you either have the property, have the funds. You don't have to have the property. You could educate yourself on how to find properties, how to become a bird dog, how to drive around for dollars. But if you don't like driving around, then you become the connector. Then you connect people, you go to every meetup, try to come up with properties. But if you don't have any of those, you're starting brand new. You gotta set up. You gotta do pro bono work, whatever you need to do with the companies that are already doing it, so you can be part of it eventually.
Yeah. When you say driving for dollars, what does that look like? How does that work?
Driving for dollars. I used to have a mentor that used to say, people spend so much time putting bandit signs and complicated strategies about how to find properties. But he always said the next investment property is just on the next street. So just drive around. If you see a property that the lawn is long, the landscaping hasn't been cut, it's not nice, then you go to the door, knock on the door and say, hey, listen, I'm interested in your property. I would like to buy it. Is it available? Yes, no. As simple as that. You don't need to have budgets or very complex strategies. You drive around for dollars, and you'd be surprised how many properties you could come up with that.
Wow. So you would you say that real estate investing, obviously you believe it works because you have a whole company behind it. What would you say let's say someone could do this part-time until they can get money coming in. How long would it take for someone on average, and I know it's going to be different, to really start seeing the benefits of real estate investing? Would it take a year, 2 years, a couple years? Obviously, the longer you do it, the more you get. But from someone starting from zero, and all they could do is like, the driving for dollars or whatnot, or network connecting. How long do you think it might take for someone to really see some success?
Can you believe it? Believe it or not, I get that question asked 100 times a year because I hire agents and they're asking me the same exact question: when can I make money? And my answer is it's a combination of things, right? Let me give you an example. Somebody could be more ahead. So you can have two types of people. You can have one that has some experience, some money, and that's it, and they don't have a job right now. Or you can have somebody that has zero money, zero experience, but works for the county, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
it's a combination of, are you purposely finding that part-time in an area that's going to create synergy? Because if not, then you're truly starting from scratch. So what I tell my agents is, you want to be smart about it, you need a job now, then find a job that is going to be that revolving door of potential clients on the specific area of real estate that you want to be in.
Yeah.
For God's sake, Starbucks is even one. Like, hey, why? Because the people buying Starbucks with money, you get to meet your barista, you get to meet people with money. I sell properties, I'm an agent. That's one example. It could be the DMV. But in the other way around, it could also be online where you don't meet anybody.
Yeah.
It could be overnight where you don't. So let's be vigilant. Let's be surgical when it comes to the part-time. So it's a combination of being smart. Now, if they don't have a part-time that brings anything to the table and they don't have anything, I would say it's probably going to be 2-3 years before they could really take off in any meaningful way. Because you could, in a part-time basis, get lucky and make $5,000 here, $7,000 there in an easy market. So if the market is easy for anybody, it's going to be easy for you as well. But the minute the market turns like the one now, then you're going to be like a dog in a seat in water. You're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to move. So you need the 3 years. If this is a career, you need like 3 years to really and you need to know yourself first, because this is what happens with a lot of agents that come or new investors. They're like, man, I want to do this.
Right.
Turn out that they would be better doing something else.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple of questions that I think a lot of people have. You talked about perceptions that you may had when you first started. Maybe you can, kind of address some of it. Do you? I know you have realtors and you have a real estate team, and obviously they're investing. They have the mindset of an investor because of the group you have there. But do you have to be a realtor to invest in real estate?
No, but remember, I always talk about this word being surgical. And if I'm going to even put you, and I'm even going to consider your part-time as an important starting point of your career, I'm definitely going to ask you to get a license. Because, and the reason why, here it is, Frankie, I did wholesaling for 10 years. So when I was a financial advisor, I married back then. My ex used to be a broker, and that's how I started. And also, I was one of the first people from Gator High School to buy a property. They used to come to my parties, but I was a wholesaler. I was just wholesaling properties, and the clients just wanted more and more properties. Back in 2005, 6, I was making sometimes $30,000 a month in properties only. But in 2010, I sold 100 properties to just one person in New York. And my lawyer said to me, dude, you're pretty smart. You've been in this business for 10 years as a wholesaler. Go and get the license, for God's sake. Because somebody was complaining about me, an agent complained, oh, he's doing transactions representing the buyer seller. And of course, that was all a lie. And I had everything documented correctly and the assignments, and didn't go anywhere. But my lawyer was like, hey, don't waste my time. Just get the license. So I got the license, because here's the biggest misconception. People think that, and you hear it all the time, and I even heard it when I was a wholesaler only, when they said, no, you're just going to add yourself more liability. Don't do it. Don't do it. And this is spoken between foreign groups, bigger pockets all over the place. And I'm like, what are they talking about? I feel the same way until I realized how much money I was leaving on the table. A ton of money. They want to give an example, get my license passed in a minute, and then I'm wholesaling. But now, as I'm cold calling, instead of the option only being, hey, I adore your property, I want to buy it. Now I have option B. I could say, hey, I love your property, I want to buy it. Is it for sale? Will you accept this cash offer for 100? No, man, I think I want to go retail. Oh, guess what? I'm also an agent. Let's list it.
Yeah.
No, but I get a fact, fix it. Now what works for me is that I need to fix it. We're also a lending company. Okay, let me lend you the money. You need a equity line. That's why we prepare our agents to learn the 4 pillars so that way they're able to do everything. But you know how many times afterwards, once I have the license, they were just handing me checks only because I had a license. And then I was able to learn kind of like the light side and the dark side, because I could be on both sides looking at everything. I had access to MLS. And I just dawned on me, it's like, how stupid I've been for not getting this license a long time ago. So in my course, under my roof, you need it. Anybody that comes to me, I said, go get it. It takes no.
So you don't need it, but you highly recommend it. Basically, what
highly recommend it because you can keep up with the laws. And a lot of times you're going to buy a property and the commission's going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Might as well go to you, you know?
Right. Makes total sense. So you've mentioned a few times, what do you bring to the table? You might bring, a network of people, you might bring money. Let me ask you another question that's like a misconception out there that people, believe it or not, even in 2024, still believe you need. But do you need to have money to start doing real estate investing?
No, not at all. Not at all. Tomorrow you could go and drive around, bring me a property that I like, and I'll pay you $10,000 for spotting it. That's simple. Okay. Or you could you could take my properties with my permission or anybody's properties and post it on over social media and say, I'm a wholesaler, I represent, and then pick up potential buyers. You bring them to me, and then I'll pay you a real estate commission. That's some examples. I'm sorry, pay you an assignment, and it's totally legal if you bring the buyer. Because what happens is, if you don't have a real estate license and you bring a buyer, then I JV you within the assignment. So now you're part of the assignment. So we're assigning contracts. You don't need none of that. You could say, let me put it to you in perspective. If I were to find a good handyman, trustworthy, that said, Jorge, you put the money, I put the repairs, heck yeah. We're on. So that's just one example. My son, thank God, my stepson, Kelvin, I said to him to pick up a trade in real estate. And he became really good at rehabbing. He messed up some of my properties at the beginning. I was like, okay, that's either that or paying for college. So it's the same thing. But now he could do a whole house. So guess what? I'm so proud of him. As of the summer, I said, hey, this is not time to do flips because market is bad. But in summer, if you're up to it, I'm going to buy the property and go 50-50. You see? So you don't need money at all. You just need to, you need to be present, right? You need to be around people that are doing it. Because even if you have zero skill, and I said, dude, I'm going to give you 2% ownership. This is what I need you to do. The client is coming from New York, drive him around, showing the properties, and I share some. It's all about discussing it and building a relationship with the people that are doing it. And then once you start doing the little ones, because it's better 10% of something than 100% of nothing.
Right.
You start 10-5, 10-5, getting to meet buyers, getting to meet sellers, getting to meet title companies, getting to meet lenders. Eventually, one of the clients that you're helping is going to say, Frankie, what if I give you $500,000. What can you do with that? You've been really good to me. Can we JV? And that's how I opened up Greystone. One
Yeah.
of my clients said, what can you do with $1,000,000? It's like a lot.
Yeah.
So that's what happened.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you guys do some lending as well. That's one of your pillars there at Greystone. Do you guys do conventional and hard money, or do you do one or the other?
No, I mean, we're licensed MLOs, so we can do anything. How many conventional loans we do? Very little. And also because we opened it not too long ago, and it was right when the rates were going. Up.
Yeah.
But very difficult to do everything we do under one roof.
Right.
But I'm gonna tell you, we're not the jack of all trades. We're not. We have one trade, which is we'll help you allocate and finance and rehab the property.
Yeah.
It seems like we do a lot, but in reality, we don't go out there and market ourselves like this big lender. We do it within, because we're thinking of like the Costco approach, the Sam's Club approach, where we don't have to go out there and sell 20 properties a month. We could sell 2 or 3 and double on the service, and just make money a little bit here, a little
Yeah.
bit there on the lending, on the purchase, on.
Yeah.
But agents that want to work with us, they have the luxury of being able to be consultants. Because what I tell the agents, hey, dude, AI is around the corner. Within a year or two, they're going to be walking around. And unless you bring critical thinking, unless you're advising your clients, they're going to go for the free version. So the agent, as we know it, needs to be more educated, needs to know more options than just the normal,
Yeah.
in order to be able to help the clients. And that's what we do here. We want to teach the agents how to offer, subject to sandwich leases, whatever, to attract buyers and sellers.
Yeah. Can you explain for those who may not understand what is the definition, or can you explain hard money lending?
Okay. So hard money, and I just wrote an article about this. Can I plug my website?
Yeah.
It's greystoneig.com. Go to articles, and I just wrote an article about the difference between who's the private lender, right? Because once you become bullish and you've done a couple of transactions, your next level up, like power up, like Mario, is going to be finding a private lender that trusts you, right? And in order to make that connection, you have to understand where they're coming from. So you could have something in common, right? Well, 99% of the private lenders are a person like you and I that hustle in property management and as a landlord and flipping properties for years, accumulated enough money to start lending it. And it's the organic thing to do, right? You go from hands-on to less hands-on to eventually you still want to be in real estate, but you don't want to have to do nothing. Then you just lend money. So
Right.
Those are the private lenders doing that. It is very important because as you approach them, you don't approach them in the sense of, I'm going to be smarter than you. I'm going to try to pull a one on you. That is the bad approach. And I see a lot of rookies that are like trying to, when they first meet a private investor, private lender, once again, it's just somebody like you and I wanting to put their money to work because the savings accounts are not paying enough.
Right.
But I see them with the wrong approach, hiding things from the private lender, try to come up with bogus prices, values, and then what could potentially been a marriage and a beautiful relationship long term now is completely crushed.
Right.
And you might get away on the first one, and on the second one, you lost them. So, private lender, somebody that is not happy. Here's the most basic definition: somebody that's not happy with their savings accounts, and they're saying, "Here's the money. How much do they charge? Anywhere from 10 to 12." And I had somebody, a new client, that came to me and said, 10 to 12, that's a lot of money. I said, okay, how much you need? 200,000. Good. And his name is Frank too. I said, okay, Frank, if you were to lend me $200,000 for 3 months, How much will you want to make? Will you be okay with 2K? Ah, man, that's too little. Well, 2K is already 10% right there for the month, whatever the case may be. So will you be okay with 4K? No, man, that's too little. I'm going to risk 200,000. Exactly, my friend. Exactly.
Yeah.
But they're tying $200,000 of their money. These are people that just want to get the returns, just like in a savings account. So they want something meaningful, right?
Yeah.
In the way that the private lenders work is, let's keep an eye on this because, wow, there's so much we could talk about, but let me condense it to here's the misconception. People look at the 12% and freak out and say, no, I don't want to get into real estate investing until that gets lower. But you have to think about real estate investing long term. It
Right.
doesn't mean nothing year one. You could have, actually, you could buy the private lender 20% in year one. And if year two is 5 and year 2 through 29 is 5, guess what? Your average is 5.5. So it doesn't matter what you pay here, right? It's the facility to be able to, because in reality, in real estate, all you have is speed. You're the same as everybody else bidding on the same property. So the
Yeah.
only thing that you have is speed, and that's what even if you pay 20%, 15%, whatever the case may be, how much cheaper you got the deal otherwise if you were to go conventional.
Right.
Conventional, you wouldn't even get the off-market deal, to be honest with you. But let's say somehow you do, then you're gonna pay retail. So you're gonna pay one way or the other. But in average, 10 to 12, 2 to 3 points. The appraisal is gonna be either CMA, desktop appraisal, RPR report, BPO, one of those. Or if they're local, they might say, no, I just drive by the property and done. And they're going to require insurance as well. But it's very different than private lender could go like they're asset based more than do they care about your credit? Sometimes they don't even pull the credit. It's asset based. They like the
Right.
property. You have experience. Go. In a week, you can fund.
Yeah.
It allows you to get a better deal from the seller.
Nice. Allows you. So basically, it's private lending, and you guys facilitate that through your lending branch. Is that right?
Yeah, we do even better than that. What we do is, Frank, we try to negotiate everything within the transaction. Like, just to give you an example, rather than going private and then turning into DSCR, or for those of you that do not know what the DSCR is, semi-conventional loan or investor loan. What would I, for your audience?
Yeah.
DSCR is,
From what I understand, isn't it more based on rental
yes,
income?
yes.
Yeah.
So you have private, completely no underwriting, DSCR, a little bit of property underwriting, and then conventional, which you need your mom to sign, everybody to sign. So DSCR is kind of like in the middle. But what happens is, if you have to do both, then you must do both and take the hit, right? Closing costs once, closing costs again after 6 months. And it's painful, but it's either that or buy a property in the MLS, right? But what we try to do is, because of our experience, we go to the seller and we say, listen, here's the retail value. Here's what it's worth to an investor. And this is what it's worth to an investor if you play along with us. What does that mean? Well, let us rehab the property while you're selling it to us. Really? Yes. We'll trust you. I mean, we're going to put the documentation together. And then what we do is we do a 60 or 90-day contract. We'll create the documentation where the buyer's fixing the property. So that way, before it closes, the lending jumps from client to DSCR instead of hitting private at all. When that happens is the client saves anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000, depending on the type of lending. The seller gets a little bit of the half of that bumped in the price. So it's a win-win-win situation for everybody. That's typically how we do it. And then this is the secret, okay? Whenever you go into the SCR or this semi-conventional bank, it is better when you do it like this, where you're rehabbing the property as you buy it, because then you could justify the change of price. A lot of times what happens with seasoned wholesalers is that they first buy the property and register the sale, and then they want to go ahead and sell it 2 to 3 months later for $100,000, or they want the bank at least to acknowledge the value when they was wholesale $100,000 less. So those are some tricks that you do to avoid that. I don't know if it's too complex for the audience, but yes, that's some of the stuff.
Yeah. Well, obviously that helps, get the valuation you're looking for, so you can make more money. At the end of the day, that's what it's about, right?
And skip the private lender completely.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when you do a DSSR loan, do they still require down payment and things like that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
So there's no way around it, unless, we could talk about 1,000 creative ways of doing things, but I'm gonna give you, just for the fun of it, the only other thing here you can do not to do down payment on DSCR is you tell the seller, hey, can you add me into your LLC only at 25% position, which is the minimum that you could be in order to refinance the property into yourself. And then you do some sort of operating agreement that states that you're only there for that transition, but there's no profit sharing given to you. And then you go into the property, you probably have to sign some sort of cross collateralization with your property as a second mortgage while the transaction happens. And then you could be added there with the seasoning, which is that you're part of the LLC for 6 months, you refinance, and you don't have to put $1. That's one creative way of doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
The another creative way of doing it is you go, how much you said I want to sell the property? 150. Okay. I'm gonna pay you 170. Why are you gonna do that? Okay. Because what I want you to do is sell it to me with owner financing for 6 months, and I'm gonna pay you an extra 20. And by the way, I want to give you 10 right now. And then when 6 months from now, I'm gonna refinance you out, and your down payment was only 5% or 3 or 2, whatever the case may be.
So you would pay him the other 20 after you refinance it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then when you refinance, you don't have to you might be able to pull all of your money out. This is the burst strategy. We could do, Frankie, we could do 1,000 videos about all the strategies, and just on the BRRRR alone, we could be 2 hours. But this is the best strategy. So you buy, refinance, pull out the money. The cool thing is, the first time that I'm seeing deals, infinite cash return deals, is right now in the past couple of weeks. Prior to that, I wasn't seeing any of those. Like you try to pull the money out after you bought the property and refinance it out. You always left 10 or 20%. It's the first time where properties are low enough that you can refinance and maybe pull all of your money out. So that means the income you make afterwards is infinite, because you pull all your funds out. So don't get me started on talking about that, but I think it's the window that we have to be able to tap into panicking sellers is closing, because what media wants you want to make you believe that real estate, the Florida's going down, that is on sale. That's not true. Inventory is still pretty low compared to the amount of people moving. Insurance. People think, well, Florida's not insurable. That's the biggest lie, man. I was able to buy a policy 3 days prior to Milton, okay? And I just buying a policy for one of my properties for $1,500 a year. Has nothing to do with the hurricanes. Has to do with the fraud that happened in the past couple of decades, starting from the sinkhole fraud to the most recent roof fraud. That you're missing a shingle, and the lawyer would say, hey, we could give you $25,000 plus a brand new roof, and people were going through that. Let me tell you something, Frankie. I had a lawyer that came to me because I own 30 properties a couple of years ago. The law has changed now as of 2022. Tried to sue insurance company for claims. The law changes where unless you have the absolute proof, you cannot go after them. And that's why I believe people don't know this. That's why they're more bulletproof than ever, and they will not collapse. Actually, I could see within the next 6 months a whole bunch of new companies coming because there's very hard to do a claim. But going back to what I was going to tell you, I had a lawyer that said to me, I'm not going to mention names, but said to me, hey, you own 30 properties. There was a name storm that passed by a few weeks ago. I could do a claim on all 50 and get you $500,000. And I was like, this doesn't sound right. And I didn't do it, of course, because I was terrified to do it.
Right.
But the guy said had 200 cases.
Wow.
That is really what happened. And but as a legislation of 2022 that passed, insurance companies cannot be sued. Give you an example. Out of the 300 that we manage and the 30 that I own, didn't do one claim because it wasn't worth it. So the insurance companies know the real narrative. They're like quiet, like let's increase prices, but they're more solid than ever, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
Now I'm not talking about flood. People that are in flood, that's different, right?
Yeah.
But I'm talking about regular policies in general.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you this real quick, and we'll kind of get down to the closing minutes here.
Okay.
You see a lot online about Subject 2. Can you explain a little bit about that and what's the benefits and when you might do that?
Huge benefits right now, because Subject 2, practically what you're doing is the same type of call that we're talking about. You're talking to a seller. I'm interested in the property. If you're a wholesaler trying to find properties for yourself, the person says, no, I want to sell it in the MLS. You said, okay, here's your property is on distress. This is what you're going to get. To investors, unless you fix it to get this, you need to fix it. But I might be able to get you here if I take over your mortgage. And then the person is going to say, why? Well, because the cost of getting a new mortgage, especially one that has a higher rate, is huge. Short term and long term. Short term, you're going to have points you're going to have to pay. And then long term, if the person has a 3 or even a 4, it's going to be a big difference on the cash flow, because the liability is going to be way less than somebody picking up stuff at the average rate right now, 6, 7. So that's how you convince the seller to do it. And then the seller says, well, what about, but if I do that, then I'm never going to be able to buy anything. Well, not technically, not really. You have 2 ways of doing the Subject 2. You could do it if you're super skittish and don't want any risk at all. You could do it kind of like as a lease option. And then the Subject 2 is as a lease option. You just figure out what the the same amount of that mortgage payment, and then you sell it to your potential buyers and lease option. You give that person a couple of years, and then that way you control the title.
Yeah.
Or you go and do what is called a wraparound mortgage. And now I'm going super mega complex, but here it is. What you do is you tell the title company, you go with a title company that's experienced doing this type of sophisticated transactions, and you go, listen, we're going to wrap around the first mortgage. And how is that going to help the seller? It's because now the seller, even though the seller, to the bank's eyes, to the mortgage company's eyes, they're still the one that have to liable for the payments. Now you're wrapping around that mortgage where your buyer is the one. You're in first position with the bank. So what the wraparound mortgage does is wraps it, and you're in first position with the bank. So you don't have to feel like, man, I'm on 3rd, 4th, or 5th, whatever the case might be, okay? And then you can foreclose to your end buyer because you have the other mortgage wrapped around, okay? So in order to stay safe, you said, Mr. Buyer, yes, I'm going to let you take the property Subject 2, but I need 3 or 4 payments ahead of time because I'm not going to be chasing you for late payments. We're going to put it in escrow. And this is the type of payment you're going to make. You're going to pay me, and I'm going to pay the bank. And sometimes the investor could say, listen, the average rate out there is 6, 7. my mortgage is 3, I'm going to charge you 4, because I know there'll be times that I'm going to be servicing this and you have questions. So I want to make money also through the process. But you, as an investor, you're saying, man, that's not a big deal. 4 better than 7, let's do it. The wraparound helps you because you could foreclose on the guy. And if you're ever going to get your next loan, let's say that this was your primary home and now you want to get a new one, you could look with most banks, you could justify this debt being covered by showcasing the wraparound.
Yeah. Gotcha. Now, are you seeing that more, that the subject to deals are getting a little more popular, or what are you seeing out there?
Super popular.
Gotcha.
Super popular because sellers are looking for options, buyers are looking for options. The problem is the agents don't know anything. And I'm sorry, the majority of the agents don't know this. They don't know how to apply this. So I bet you anything, I pick up the phone and go, I call 100 agents that have a property sitting there for 6 months. Have you offered a subject to wraparound? No. What is that? So that's a problem, that the agents got licensed too quick and they don't know how to do those things. But yes, agent buyers are, because of the changes to NAR, they're trying to become more creative, and I could see them jumping into this more. But yeah, it's happening a lot. I mean, some of my savvy investor friends, that's all they do now, buy 6, 7 like that. Now, mind you that it seems like a no-brainer, but there's different types of subject to, right?
Right.
You have the performing notes and the non-performing notes. So performing notes is everything's good to go. This person is up to date. And ideally, the money that's owed versus the purchase price are pretty close, right? So they just got the loan a couple of years ago and the price is pretty close. Because then all you have to do is cover the gap and you take over. When it becomes difficult is when you're trying to do the subject to on a property, somebody that bought the property 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're looking for $500,000, but the mortgage that they're taking over is $100,000. There's a gap of 3. So how do you do that 3? Then you could do a combination of different things. You could do either a second with the seller or try to get another company to come and do the second. But it becomes more complicated. Or the person has to put the $300,000 cash.
Yeah.
So so that's the performing note. Non-performing, which I like even better, which I did recently, is the person wants to sell, hasn't been able to sell. They're not upside down on the property, but they're upside down on their payments. They're about to get foreclosed. And in those, you go and reach out to the bank and you say, what is the amount, it's called the catch-up amount. What is the catch-up of the loan amount? And then you negotiate something with the seller that you go, you're going to walk away with 10K, 5K. They cannot ask for a lot. And then your down payment will be the catch-up amount plus the 5 or 10 that the client walks away with.
Yeah. Now, do you cover this in your Property Profit Academy? Awesome. I want to show that on the screen. Let's talk a little bit about that as we wrap up here.
Okay.
But I definitely want to share that with everybody here. I'm going to put it up here on the screen if I can. This is your Property Profit Academy. And you guys need to go check this out. You can find it at propertyprofitacademy.com. Is that right?
Correct. And anybody that mentioned Frankie 20 gets a 20% discount on the first month.
Oh, look at there. We got discounts going out here. So you can see that across the bottom of the screen. Propertyprofitacademy.com and enter the code Frankie20 and get a 20% discount off. Now, what is this going to do for someone who starting off in real estate investing? Is this going to help them get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to be very clear and transparent, which I like to be always. The first module of 54 videos, each of 5 minutes, are on the basic side. I think module 2 is when we start going more in depth into like more mid-term type of strategy. And then our third one is going to be super advanced. And our goal is we also have a community there. This is what's really cool, Frankie, that we have 4 communities that are representative from each department leader that we have in the company. So if somebody, and for life, as long as you have the membership, you want to reach out to one of our property management expert. The community is there. You can ask any questions. If you want to bid the tenant on your own, whatever the case might be, we're going to be there to help you. Lending, whatever the case might be, we're there. So you get that access. You're also going to get some meetups, and we're working with a couple of RIA groups and stuff to see if we could combine meetup groups. So they're going to be there as well. But $99, and you do as much education as you can, and it gets better, brother, because every dollar they spend into the membership, it becomes Greystone dollars. So if they want to, let's say, buy a property later and they've been in the membership for 2 years, and that equates to $2,400 when they buy a property, we give them that discount of $2,400. We also have VIP membership, which is for people that, hey, I have $500,000, Jorge, I need you to create a business plan for me. I'm 50. I want to, by the time I'm 60, I have Social Security is X, Y, and Z. My pension is X, Y, and Z. My gap is X, Y, and Z. We need to meet that gap within 10 years. We do reverse engineer. We figure out what's the last property you need to buy to figure out what's the first property you need to buy. And then we create a super badass plan. That's $4,000 a year. And then on every property you buy, you get $2,000 back.
Nice.
When you do the academy, every $99 goes towards that membership as well.
Yeah. Well, there you go, folks. If you're looking to try to get into real estate investing and learn all the basics and the foundational things, I mean, Jorge and his group is awesome. They can plug you in. But more importantly, the propertyprofitacademy.com sounds like the place to go. And don't forget the discount you can get there. Put Frankie 20 and get 20% off on there, and learn your way to successful real estate investing. Now, Jorge, you talked about how you have retired many people in real estate investing, and I'm sure you're looking for the next group of people you can retire. So what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
The best way, they go to greystoneig.com, or they could go to the Property Profit Academy. The contact information is there, but greystoneig.com. And by the way, fantastic educational articles, not because I write them, it's because I'm passionate about them. So Every time that I hear something, I'm like, ooh, and AI has allowed me to become really way faster on it. So even though it's AI, it's packed with personal information and experiences. So a lot of articles, but fill out the investor profile at greystoneig.com, and you can get a hold of me. That's it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have you back. And next time, maybe we can do a little mini workshop helping people kind of get started, things like that. What a great story, Jorge, as always. And again, it's always great having you, connecting with you. Thanks for coming on the Be My Guest podcast and being an interview today.
Frankie, it's an honor. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. Thank you for the time.
You've been watching Being My Guest podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to be a guest on our podcast, go to BeMyGuestPodcast.com. That's BeMyGuestPodcast.com.